The COVID-19 raider now ravaging the world has forced many important historical events out of our minds. And one such event was the fall of President Idi Amin Dada's government on 11th April 1971, although he had promised to rule Uganda till his death. Many stories surround the life of Field Marshal Amin, and if the truth be told, many are fictitious if not outrageous lies, such as the eating of human liver and the sacrifice of his own begotten son, Moses. Be that as it may, Amin was not one to joke with. Among those who served in sensitive positions during Amin's time was James Kunobwa. He was a distinguished newsreader on national radio and national TV when he had his escapades with President Amin. Tony Owana visited James Kunobwa at his home in Mukono and learned that even the overthrow of Amin caused Kunobwa problems.
So it was during the war that ushered in the Wakombozi, 1979, when I hurriedly rushed into this house. By then I was residing in Old Kampala. No, I had friends. I had friends who were with the Tanzanian People's Defense Forces, and of course some Ugandans.
Coming with the Wakombozi?
Yes, who really warned me, said, James, you better get out of Kampala as quickly as you can. I refused. Not until 5 days before the capture of Kampala. They insisted, James, we love you. You better leave Kampala. Go anywhere. Until somebody gave me money to hire a lorry. That's when I came in this place. Unfortunately, the few articles, the few items I left, the beds, the blankets, my neighbors looted them.
Liberated them?
Looted them.
Okay, looted is the word.
Looted them. So after the war, I went back and they were surprised I was on air. I was on radio and TV. So the neighbors who had looted my property just disappeared, ran away.
Why? They thought you would find a way.
You know, they didn't know that we are public servants.
Oh, they thought, considered you to be part of
they thought
regime.
Anybody who is on the radio and TV disseminating news is part of a government system.
Okay.
And I remember when I was here, the then General of the Army of Tanzania, General Musuguri,
David Musuguri,
was brought here that we have Amin's man around here. He found me taking a cup of tea, was black tea. He said, Wameniambia. So I don't want to use Swahili.
But that's the one he used.
Yes. So they have told me that you are Amin's man. I looked at the man. I said, who tells you? So we have got information, you have been Amin's man. When he repeated it 3 times, I told him angrily, I think, yes, I am. So he removed my shirt, looked at the shoulders, there was no mark. Looked at my leg, there was no mark.
Don't assume that people know what you are saying.
Yes.
What mark would have been
No,
here?
he was looking for a belt. Because when you are carrying a gun, it must leave a mark on your shoulder.
Yes.
When you are wearing those army shoes, it must leave a mark.
Yes.
So the man said, this man is not an army man. The way he's speaking to me is confident in Swahili. Then he said, but why do you think people are claiming so? I said, I've been reading news in English, both on radio and TV. Oh, that is the reason, yes. So I was a public servant, not an army man. So he asked for a cup of tea, even put his tent around here before they liberated Lugazan Jinja.
So you had the officers' mess here?
Here, Tanzania People's Defense Forces and Ugandan. So they used this base to liberate the rest. So those colleagues who had maligned me as Amin's man just disappeared from the village.
Okay.
They disappeared.
Service under President Amin was not easy.
Yes.
Explain.
One, I remember when there was a visitor from Saudi Arabia. I don't remember the name, but it was Sheikh Khalid. He was a visitor to the president. And I was on duty. So the story came in, I had to read the news on TV. Somebody, I think, deliberately wanted me to be murdered. Deliberately. Because as I was reading, here is the president receiving his guest at Entebbe. Somebody put in a caption of how Arabs enslaved Africans with the chains in their neck. Here is the president. You know how Idi Amin was. Here is the president of Uganda, DSOMC, conqueror of the British Empire and life president.
Yes.
With his visitor from the Arab world, entertaining his visitor, and you are reading news, they are watching you live. Hello, hello. What is going on? What is going on?
But why are you alive?
It must be God's blessing. Oh, there are several hair-raising stories.
Now you explain how they came for you, because I don't.
So after that, I saw soldiers bombarding the studio. I was picked up, taken to 23 January Avenue. That is Charles Drive, Kololo.
25 January.
That was his official residence. Mjinga.
You met the president himself?
Brought in, taken in. Fortunately, I was not handcuffed, but surrounded by soldiers. Sit down. I sat down. Why do you embarrass me before my guest? I'd been advised by the then PS, who was his uncle, Abdul Nasser. Abdul Nasser. When you go there, don't utter any word. I'm asking you, why do you embarrass me with my guests? You mean you can't speak? So the soldiers lifted me up. Excuse me, sir. I read news, but somebody does the role of putting on the films. For me, I'm locked up in that room. Somebody goes somewhere in another room and puts on the film. Actually, I was expecting a film, you hosting your guest, but I was only shocked. He looked at guests, talk up. So walked out on foot. Then I went back to my residence, Martin Road.
Oh, you were at Martin Road?
Yes. People said, you better run away. My colleague who was reading news in Swahili ran away. Abdul Saleh. For him, it took off because he was supposed to read the news in English, in Swahili. Mine was to read the news in English. He just took off.
And the same pictures would have been there.
Exactly.
You also take off.
So I remember my neighbor said, why don't you run away? I said, but what have I done? So you better. I said, I'm not running away.
And you didn't run away?
Never. So the following day, I missed the news. He had names he liked. James Kunobwa, Cosma Rugaba, George Bisoborwa, I think. So any of his bulletin, those are three people, must present the news. So he said, what is happening to James? I don't know what they told him. So soldiers came for me at home and said, why don't you go and read news?
Hello.
So I went back. That was God's luck. But another one, when there was an attempted coup by West Nilers. I think either by Lieutenant Colonel, I don't remember.
Mike Ondoga.
Ondoga. Lieutenant Colonel Mike Ondoga. But that day I'd been warned by my friends who were working the Air Force. Said, James, are you going to read the news? Said, don't go. But I insisted I went. And that was my luck. So at around 9:45, there was total blackout at Nakasero.
9:45 in the evening?
PM. All soldiers had disappeared. For me, I was in the studio.
From Nakasero? Because
that was the studio. That was the studio for radio and TV. So they would join radio. They would join radio with the Radio Uganda down here. Would all read news at Nakasero. So basically, while there, I had gunfire. Somebody came with a cheat. Big document, please read on air. Of course, common sense said before you read through the first paragraph was saying, we have decided to capture power. I just pressed the button which was underneath.
That button does what?
Switches you off in case you want to cough so that you don't cough on air.
You had such...
Yeah, there was a button underneath. I pressed on the button.
And you switched off?
I read.
Kunobwa.
So I was not on air, but I was reading.
Wait a bit.
Yes, sir.
Go on.
So I read. Within 2 minutes, the then President Idi Amin Dada knew he had been captured. So reinforcement came from Bugorobi, Marines.
Marines.
Fought. Within 30 minutes, they took over the radio station. It was the only radio station, the only TV in the country. I was locked up there. I was locked up. Are you alive? I didn't know who I was talking to. The other ones were dressed in military. These ones are dressed in military. I said, sir, I'm alive. Okay, continue. You redesign a statement to say we are on air again, the government is in power. And I read the statement. I remember when a special announcement was given to me while in studio, dismissing my own Minister of Information.
Who was your minister?
I think was he Juma Oris?
Juma Oris?
Juma Oris.
Kano Juma Oris.
Yes, Kano Juma Oris. And later on, dismissing my own permanent secretary, Michael Emojong. But we had a system in the House. Any bulletin concerning dismissal of a senior public officer must be cleared by the minister.
The minister who has been dismissed.
Now, here is a story being brought to me while in the studio, dismissing my own minister.
Who must clear the
So,
story?
common sense prevailed on me. Where did this story come from? PPU, Presidential Press Unit.
Yes.
Who brought it?
Of course,
was the head of PPU. There was Venerato Kea.
Venerato was already there.
He was there, Venerato Kea and others.
You know Venerato is still there.
Yes, Venerato Kea. So really I had to use common sense. I interrupted the bulletin. Here is a special announcement. My minister was listening.
The one who has been sacked?
Exactly.
Okay.
The Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces and the Head of Government of the Republic of Uganda, VC, DSO, MC,
don't make a mistake.
His Excellency, no, the President of Uganda, with immediate effect, has dismissed with disgrace.
Yes.
This was the minister in the office. The minister was in the office, being dismissed by a junior officer like me.
Yes.
After the bulletin, the man comes to me and said, James, you should have rang me. But I said, sir, I was on air. Could I have interrupted the bulletin to inform you, sir? Who cleared it? Who cleared? I said, please, deal with His Excellency, the President. The man just parked, drove his car.
You were talking about it pompously. Were you behaving like that with Juma Oris?
No, Juma Oris, first of all, news readers on TV and radio were insulated, like nurses and doctors. We had that insulation by the president. He used to like his bulletin, so there was no way I would be tortured as a news reader, because something he respected most was the voice. Wherever I would go, he would go with his radio.
Yes.
His radio. You remember I had the Pujo 504 estate, fully with all gadgets.
Yeah, I saw it.
Even you could use it as a broadcasting house.
Unit.
His Pujo. You would go in the bush, you would go anywhere, would use that studio to broadcast live. So we had insulation. There was no way Juma Oris, minister, would attack me. And actually by then, today you call them celebs. I was a celeb.
Celeb.
Thank you, sir. Tondaba kutunula bwenti.
Sikulabira.
N'ekisa kya Katonda.
Tekulabirewa. Oliwa.
Another one was the Israeli invasion at Entebbe Airport. Entebbe raid. I was on studio. I was on duty.
Again, you.
Personally, when the Israelis raided Entebbe, there was only one old lady who had fallen sick, who had been taken to Mulago. I think her name was Dora Block.
Dora Block, yes.
So, my friend Philip Short, who is a BBC correspondent by then, he was in Makindye, rang 34431. That was the hotline in the studio. I think 34431. Whenever you get that call, either it is from State House or from the President. Okay. So I picked it. The President said, "Are you still on air?" Of course, I knew his voice. I said, sir, we are still on air. I want you to use all languages you know. I know Runyoro Rutoro, nsobola okubaza Runyoro.
Gambira.
Nyoyo, nkaguza byolaba n'ogonza byona ndagambira yo. No problem, sir.
Mawe.
So I could speak Lusoga, I could speak Luganda, I could speak Kiswahili fluently, English and Italiano. So you read all the languages you know. Tell them the country is at peace. Tumewapiga wabeberu. I didn't know what was happening at Entebbe. So until Philip Short said, I want to assist you. All hostages have been airlifted. They're now in Nairobi. I said, now, is this news for Radio Uganda?
Philip Short wanted now to become the editor of this government
Yes.
of Amin.
So I didn't read it.
Banange.
So I read that statement. You know, there was a system by then in the studio. You just tune a button, you get BBC.
Yes.
You tune a button, you get Radio France. You tune a button, you get Radio Deutsche Welle. So there was that system designed, not to fidget around. So I tuned the BBC. It was my voice now. Live on BBC in London.
When you were
telling the world things are now okay.
Okay.
But then later they say, according to a reporter in Kampala, this is what he has to say. According to our reporter in Nairobi, this is what he has to say. All hostages are alive. And according to our reporter in Zambia, this is what it is. I said, no, I'm not up to date.
Supposing you had read the Philip Short's information, which was factual, do you suspect you would still be talking to me here now?
Common sense is not so common, especially in common people. So I was not common. I can't say I was a common man. Yeah.
Okay.
If I had read it, I would be dead by now. It's like the other, when the West Nilers wanted to capture power. If that thing had gone on air.
Mike Ondoga's statement.
Yes. And this team comes in, that would be the end.
Mike Ondoga was at that time minister, was he?
I think Foreign Affairs.
Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Foreign Affairs, State.
I think the president had
Another one
criticized him in a cabinet meeting.
Yes.
And his body was found floating on the Nile.
I don't know.
Shortly thereafter, he was...
What I know, there was a graduation ceremony at Makerere. So he had gone to Makerere. So I was on air. I received the story dismissing the minister with the disgrace. So I read that story.
Of Foreign Affairs.
Foreign Affairs.
So you've been enjoying these dismissals. You even read the dismissal of my uncle, Michael Emojo.
Yes. Many. There was one time I read randomly more than 120 civil servants retired in public interest, retired with the disgrace. That was the normal exercise. So there was no way if you're a civil servant you would miss the news.